Hey everybody, a little bit of a different format and a different place, but it's Ma. It's me. How you doing? Not going to be a long stream. I'm still recovering from flu things, but there was a press conference today that originally was supposed to start at 11:30 Pacific time. First, originally it was 11. Then they said 11:30. Something okay. It's 2 o'clock on the east. Well, it's 2:30, and then they moved it to 2:30. So I thought, oh, well, no, first it was 2, which is 5 o'clock. And then they moved it to 2:30, which is 5:30. Got it? So basically, 5:30 rolls around. There are 5,000. Hey, how you doing, John Marks? 600 people. Actually, it dipped a bit. Waiting on YouTube at once at the Raider channel for this thing to start, right? They waited. We waited. 5 minutes. Nothing. 10 minutes. Nothing. 15 minutes? Maybe? Nope. 20 minutes? Nope. 30 minutes? Oh, you gotta be kidding me, man. 35 minutes later, the freaking thing finally starts with John Turturno, who not calling himself JT the Brick, but he's in his spiffied up Raider garb. Getting the proceedings started. Okay. Now, the way this was pitched by the supposed media in the know was oh so hilarious because look, I'm just going to just randomly go to Twitter right now, and I'm going to type MGM Raiders, okay, and read to you what I saw. And I'm doing this from my Mac, so I don't have one of those cameras I can spin around, right? But I thought since I got a new Mac and everything, I thought I'd test out this camera. Whatever. So I'm looking through here, MGM Raiders, and MGM Resorts says, "Welcome to the show, Las Vegas Raiders." Okay, fine. And what we saw was, let's see here. Oh, by the way, let's see here. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. MGM Resorts Club. Oh, yeah. Here's lvsportsbiz.com. That's the supposed Las Vegas dedicated sports blog, right? Yeah. January 21st. Raiders and MGM Resorts International have presser Thursday, 11 a.m. Note the time, 11 a.m. MGM CEO Jim Murren, Raiders Prez, Mark Badane, Mandalay Bay, president, he didn't put president in, but Mandalay Bay, Chuck Bowling, MGM Resorts VP Tony Gladney will be there. Oh, really? Pick here is Badane with update story on NFL player draft event strip in April, lvsportsbiz.com. Okay. Somebody else repeated the same thing. But you know what? MGM never showed up. There was no Murren. There was no Chuck Bowling, no Gladney, no nothing. It was just Mark Davis, and there was just Steve Sisolak, the governor. Can't say just because he's the governor of Nevada. It was the usual suspects, those two. That's it. There was nothing. And so I'm thinking, you really didn't do all of this just to tell me you're officially the Las Vegas Raiders. You could have left that alone. Because the normal process is for you to clean up your stuff in Oakland or wherever you are, then get settled there, right? And then reestablish yourself. But so the first thing I did was I called my friends at the Coliseum, and guess what? That was today. They still haven't heard from the Raiders. Okay. Because in those of you who are not familiar with how this works, it's like this. Let's say, let me put it in terms that you might be able to understand. Let's say you had a room in your home or room in your apartment. Let's say you had a 2-bedroom apartment and someone was using that room. Now you told them, hey, you know what? Last year you signed an agreement where you're going to let us know if you're going to stay in this room for the rest of this year. You've got until March 31st to let us know, right? So you, on the other hand, are thinking, gee, if it's great because at least I can make plans to find somebody else to fit that space if they're not able to do anything by March 31st. If by March 31st, I can know that they're gone, right? I can plug and play. No muss, no fuss, right? So what happens is that it's early on still, but now you're hearing, hey, wait a minute, they're leaving. Or they say they're leaving, but you haven't heard from them. Oh, and by the way, they still have, a few things here and there, a few remnants. And if they were going to stay, they're going to pay you up front. They're going to pay you $1,000. Well, excuse me, they're going to pay you $1,000 a month times the number of months up front, right? Okay. So you're looking for that. But then you hear from a friend down the street, oh, so-and-so says they're leaving and they're moving in here. And in fact, they've already gone. And you say, wait a minute. They were supposed to have told me they're already gone so that I can rent the place out to somebody else, right? So now you're in a dilemma. Aren't you going to feel a little pissed off if the person you have this agreement with tells everybody else they're gone, but you know they're not gone, and you don't quite know what to do and you haven't heard from them? That's the situation. And folks, that's not how business is handled. But that's what the Raiders have done. So this isn't for anybody to say, well, you can figure out they're not coming back. That's not true. Because the first question my source said to me is, well, do they have the roof problem fixed? I said, hell no. So what are they talking about then? I don't know. Because no one believes they're going to have the roof problem fixed and the stadium open when they say they're going to have it open. This has been a Keystone Cops routine. First, it was supposed to be open March 20th, 2020, excuse me. Then June. Then July. Then the scheduling documents reported that the last administrative work would be done mid-September. So I made that public. And they pulled back and said, oh, no, it's going to be August 6th. Then Don Webb says, well, that's not really a hard number. Then they went back to July 31st, substantial completion. Then they came back with a commercial and said, oh, it wasn't even a commercial, it was a news item on News 3 Las Vegas. Oh, we're going to do this, and this is going to be finished, opened July 31st. Not substantial completion. But then the news people say, hey, he told us it's going to be substantially completed. Right? So there's all of this cacophony of noise around this that spells dysfunction. When you wipe away the smoke, as I'm doing, I see two things. I see a process that's very screwed up in Las Vegas, and an organization, the Raiders, that don't have enough money. I expected them, and you're going to yell about PSLs and all that, but look, the 200 million more in PSLs, 252 million more they got in PSLs, which is fantastic, is going to be eaten away by the cost overruns. Mark Bedane himself said that they wanted 12 founding partner sponsors. They only have 9. I expected Jim Murren to come through and say, hey, we are a founding partner sponsor along with Mandalay Bay, and here's what we're offering. All right. Mike Zulam asks a great question. Hey, everybody. Mike asks, do you think they will actually play an incomplete, unsafe stadium? Will the NFL allow this? No. The NFL will not allow it. The National Football League will not allow it. Okay? Period. John Mark says, isn't an offense the way the Raiders went out? That doesn't make any difference. You don't handle business that way. This isn't like dating some girl or something where you're kind of not sure if you're dating or all that stuff. No, this is a matter of contracts and procedures. You are building a multi-billion-dollar facility, but you're also responsible for notifying the people who run a multi-billion-dollar facility what you're going to do with respect to them. To handle this the way the Raiders have is churlish and childish. Purely, okay? Purely. And it also, look, I don't think it's funny. I think it smacks of accusations that Raiders have sustained along the lines of, good faith, lack of good faith bargaining, okay? So here's another example of it. Oh, and then to double down on these problems of lack of good faith bargaining that it would seem are rising up. Look at how the Raiders are treating UNLV. If you read Senate Bill 1, Nevada Senate Bill 1, the Southern Nevada Tourism and Investment Act, and you read the sections of the bill that have to do with UNLV called the university, Section 29 specifically, and go to Section 29, Subdivision 3A, and then read from there. All right? And it will specifically tell you that the Raiders must give the university first right of refusal for home games at the facility unless the Raiders have slotted in a specific event at a time. But the Raiders didn't do that in reality. What they did was Bedane said to UNLV, hey, Raiders president Mark Bedane, hey, you can't have these 2 dates in September. I need them for a concert. I may need them. He said the word may. May need them. May means you haven't done it. Okay? May means you haven't done it. May means you haven't done it. So if you haven't done it, you're saying may need them. You haven't done it. The law specifically doesn't allow for May. It doesn't give the Raiders a stagco any wiggle room. It's very clear on how UNLV should be treated. Okay, very clear. Patrick and Blackman says people that are pro Vegas say that Vegas high rollers will not let this fail due to the money that's in this. But the whole point is, Patrick, what does that have to do with doing things right? I mean, I would be one of those people to say it shouldn't fail. It shouldn't fail. Las Vegas needs a large-scale event center, but God damn it, do it right. It's like the Raiders can't help themselves. They have to not do things quite the right way. And then they create problems for themselves. They try to blame other people. This is a classic example of that. This has been going on for a long time. This is the Raider way, folks, okay? It's the Raider way being ported to Las Vegas. And here I'm talking about, I'm criticizing how the organization is operating itself. I have the right to do that, just as you have the right to tell me that I'm wrong. It's a free country so far. Okay. So Patrick again says the ends justify means. There's that's their mentality. But the whole point is that they don't, they don't know what it is. All right. They don't know. Joseph Amander is a great video, by the way, Joseph. And Joseph, I did this video after I got a call from my source. So it wasn't, you had just happened to do yours. So I wasn't doing a response to yours, just FYI. But Joseph says, as I point out earlier in my upload, if they're so confident about the stadium, why didn't we see Allegiant Stadium? It's a great point. I mean, there are a lot of questions to ask, but again, all of this starts with Mark Davis, and it ends with Mark. And Mark is trying to rush things. He's trying to push. He's being insistent. He's got the governor behind him. You can see who is the one pushing the strings, or pulling the strings, if you will, by who's on the stage. Who wasn't there is more telling. You didn't have Jim Murren. You didn't have Chuck Bowling. You didn't have any of the members of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Note that, okay? You didn't have none of them, okay? You didn't have have you ever seen the mayor at any Raider event of late? The mayor of Las Vegas? She is gone. She's focused on soccer. The mayor of Las Vegas, she is so upset that the Raiders are not downtown. I don't think she's gotten over it. She wasn't even there regarding the I didn't even see a statement from the mayor regarding the NFL draft. She's the mayor of Las Vegas. I'll look again, but I didn't see one. Wow. Okay. Patrick says the governor looked like straight up. Governor Sisolak has been a cheerleader for this from day one. He has been consistent. All right. Steve sees this as a jobs generator. What Steve sees, and yeah, I know Steve personally. Okay. And so what Steve sees is basically that he sees what Steve sees is that, and I think this is something you'll understand, Patrick. What Steve sees is this as a jobs generator and a kind of a tool to help Las Vegas transition from a casino economy into a mixed economy. I mean, Las Vegas is in trouble from that perspective. So he saw the handwriting on the wall some time ago and believed that this large-scale event center was just the key to not bring better fortunes across the board. He's not naive like that. But Steve sees this as a way of generating jobs from a source that Vegas didn't have before, sports. And if you take a look at the whole, what's happening in Las Vegas is really quite beautiful from an urban planning standpoint. I pointed me that's way because that's my background. They are making a whole new industry for themselves. So students of urban planning should really pay attention to what's going on in Las Vegas. It really is something else from the perspective of how to, build a new industry. The minutia aside regarding how someone may feel about the relocation, yada, 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 the bottom line is if you take what's happening with the Raiders, with hockey and NHL, with minor league baseball, which at some point many will believe will be Major League Baseball, okay? And then if you remember the whole noise about Mr. Jackson and his NBA franchise and how he was building the arena. I still have to track that guy down. That's what's really fascinating about this. The fact that you have a city that has turned around and said, we're in trouble. We need to grow an industry. And so this is economic development. This is great economic development 101. So those of you out there who are trying to figure out where I'm coming from and everything, I keep saying it's too complicated. I'm giving you a picture because of my own background. This is the kind of thing that I love. And they're giving a textbook. They're writing a book. Okay. They're writing a book. All right. So, okay. They're writing a book. They're completely writing a book. Okay. So, and it's really, really cool to watch. Really cool. So Patrick says, did Sisolak do any research about how this is getting done? No, he didn't. Steve, this is all this is piecemeal. Napoleon Kaufman brought this to Mark Davis' interests. But what wasn't mentioned, and the person that wasn't up there was the UNLV persons that did the study that really turned Mark Davis around. And Mark Davis was convinced that gambling could be done in a way that was legally safe and for want of a better term, financially robust. In other words, you didn't worry about, hey, whether or not someone's going to try to fix a game or something like that, right? And so I have a copy of the study that was written. It's actually really an excellent textbook on how to think about pro gambling merged with sports. It's really great. I mean, it has to do with, I don't mean it's theory. It's nothing theoretical about it. Nothing. It's step-by-step how-to 114-page document. So I can see why Mark was sold. My only thing was Mark should have said, you know what? I want to know if we can do this in Oakland. I want Oakland to give us I want to give Oakland a chance to match this. And I'm going to put everybody on a horse race fast track. That way everything is completely open, right? And no one can say, I didn't know. Because there is the other side of the coin. As much as I think this is cool economic development, I've been extremely critical of economic development in Oakland. We have forgotten how to do economic development in Oakland, okay? And the one thing that Sisolak and I talked about when I first got to know him, and that was before he got mad that, oh, you're talking to this person, you're this and you're that, and, you know, he was kind of, you know, political people like to take sides, right? And I'm a middle guy. But the one thing that we bonded out and we had that long conversation was the realization that we needed to protect and grow jobs in America. And because we're at a crisis, jobs are being automated out of existence in many cases. Offshoring is only part of the problem, but it's the automation that's the problem. When I was at CES, I saw by Omron some of the most frighteningly efficient and frighteningly fast robots I've ever seen in my entire life, shrunk down to a form where one of them could fit and maybe comprise about half this room. But I tell you, in 6 years, that thing will be designed like an android, and it will be scary. Okay? It will be scary. So for those of you who are wondering what all that has to do with this, my one-word answer is everything. 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 So Las Vegas is starting with Adelson. Adelson had another game to play because Adelson was concerned. I read an account. I don't think the person got it quite right. Sheldon Adelson was concerned that too much money was going to the convention center. It wasn't that he wanted none to go, but he just saw this cash cow just sucking up this cash cow. And then he had one guy, he had his publication basically sick on him. Ross Wallencollar, who was very popular, had cancer. Very nice man. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the groundbreaking. Very nice. That's the thing. You know, I'll tell you the thing I like about it is the people I've met in Las Vegas, I love. I mean, the people who are involved, they are cool people. The kind of people that you'd love to sit down and have a dinner with, talk. They are truly nice people, which is what the saddest part about all this is how Mark has pitted everybody against each other, fans and all that sort of thing, and it doesn't need to be that way. There are a lot of good people involved here. Oakland can learn a lot from Las Vegas. I repeat, Oakland can learn a lot from Las Vegas. On the other hand, Las Vegas can learn a lot from Oakland for one reason. Folks, those of you watching here or in Vegas, you know this as well as I do. You don't have rent control. So you think the Raiders coming in is great, but I've talked to a number of people, cab drivers, people on the street, talking about how their apartment rents are going up. One guy told me his rent went up $250 in 1 month. That would never happen in Oakland. That's the beauty of rent control. You would have to move out for them to be able to do that, okay? You can't do that in Oakland. But where you're at, you have two problems in Vegas. You've got lack of rent control for apartments, and you have extremely low wages. So here you are, you're working a low-wage job, scruffing by on tips. Here come the Raiders. You think that's great. I won't be able to afford to go to a game. I'd love to, but then also you turn around and you have to deal with the horror of watching your rent go up, and you're thinking, where am I going to go? On the other hand, they're thinking, hey, look, if you move out, I've got somebody else that'll fill in your place. So people are building apartments left and right. As I read and look around. So and then on top of that, if you get homeless, you can't just sit on the street in Vegas. They can arrest you, thereby setting up a very ugly, soft underbelly economy where you're wondering where you're going to get your help from, a government that's against you, and it's going to be rough and put you in a pen and everything else. That's horrible. That is a horrible situation. And it's there. I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm not talking about Logan's Run or Blade Runner, which is a better example. It's there right now. Okay. So you have to pray and hope that these jobs come online so that more and more people can get these jobs and make money to be able to stay there and transition and make more money to at least afford where they live, And this is where the Las Vegas economy needs to step in with a special job training program and an assistance program. If you're going to foist all of this development on people with sports and population growth, you need to have some kind of mechanism to help the people that are there adjust. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay. I mean, it might look exciting to the other people, but I'm thinking, you know what? So that's what I'm saying. The development side of the equation, beautiful for Vegas. The social welfare side of the equation, ugly. Ugly. And so Donut says MD is trying to save face. Mike Click says, so if they play in Oakland, then what do they do with the money they're collecting for season tickets? Give a refund? Well, Mike, I think that somebody else asked that question. It's a good one. I'll answer it again. The time that's relevant is when there are dates attached in teams. Dates, times, and teams. When you have dates, times, and teams, what does that tell you? It means you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the NFL will be playing in Vegas, and you know when it's going to happen. If you don't see that, at this point, there's nothing. You're not going to see that for a while, okay? So, Young Pharaoh says, impeach Spanos. Alex Espinoza, how you doing? Alex says, I really do hope they get one more year in Oakland because with the progress made this year, in spite of all the obstacles, this team really has a chance of winning the division for Oakland. I agree with you. It'll be fun to see them bring the trophy home. And Bible Study says, I'm so happy about Las Vegas Raiders. He says it has a good ring to it. Okay. And so we've got something else too. AEG is responsible for both. All right. Cowboy Wrestler, how you doing? Where you been, my man? Um, Something else in all this too, that is that watch out for there are little problems that creep up as I see them, and that point to me that the stadium has a long way to go in its completion. Um, if you look at the interior at the top, very top at the rims, okay, where the steel frame trusses are located, just below them, there is uh, there is a ridge between the topmost portion of seats and the curtain wall. And it reminds me of that space that a gentleman fell into at the Warriors game about, I believe it was 6 or 7 years ago, and fell to his death. They need to make sure that little maladies like that are buttoned up during construction so that when this thing is open to people, you don't have accidents like that happening. But that top bridge looks gnarly just by design. It's like, why are you going to put seats up there, dude? I mean, it looks almost like if you sit down there, you put a seat up there, someone's head's going to bump against the girder. That's how it looks. It's like, did they actually measure that out right? Take a look at it for yourself. I mean, way up there, okay? Because the implication is they're going to have seats up there. If they're not going to sell them, block it out. That would be my recommendation, you know? Mike says, so when the schedule comes out, we'll know where they play. Exactly. Because, Mike, that process of, making the schedule includes such issues as when the stadium is going to be available or not. And then what other events will come in or not, right? That's what the Raiders had to deal with the A's in the multi-purpose Coliseum for decades, Hence the whole discussion about the white middle and all that, with the sand and all that stuff. Hennessy, how you doing? Hennessy says, we'll never wear anything with LV on it. Yeah, the memes that were coming off when Gutierrez put up, of ESPN put up the that Las Vegas Raiders picture were just hilarious. There was somebody that took that marionette from World Police, I think it was, or the guy just upchucking. It was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. Cowboy Rush says, what a mess this Vegas Raiders thing has become. Donis says, good night, my man. Good night, sir. Night, Donis. And so, Pedro says, saw the Las Vegas ceremony today, so we are the Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland? Yeah, that's a good name for it. In fact, I like that name. The Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland, which is the reverse of the Oakland Raiders of Las Vegas. Somebody the other day was pestering me saying, forget that. UNLV. No, what did he say? Oh, Oakland Invaders, man. I like it. I like it. Yeah, so Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland. That has a nice ring. Joseph Amador says, I won't hear anything that has Vegas Raiders either. I think the name that I think is inappropriate is Vegas Nation, because it puts Vegas over the Raiders as opposed to being Raider Nation, right? And I meant to make this piece about the black hole. I'm sorry, the black hole will not be the same at all. The black hole won't be the same because the only way the Raiders could recreate that is to have paid actors down there. You have to pay people to be down there. Because the original black hole wasn't known for people having a lot of money and everything, right? So, and that's going to be a coveted ticket. So it'll be the wine sipping black hole. Maybe you call it the black wine hole. Is that a name? Is there such a thing as black wine? Oh, there's red wine, right? There's white wine. I wonder. Anyway, John Mark says, bring back the Oakland Invaders. Patrick and Blackman says, it may be a mess, but it's more a mess than Oakland can't take advantage of this Las Vegas fiasco. Patrick, I agree with you. And that's why, I'm on, sides 1 and 2, because look, if Oakland had a better economic development effort and we had redevelopment, we wouldn't have been in this situation. If we have better leadership, but we have a culture, we have a crisis of civic incompetence in Oakland right now, and it's really killing us. I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm not saying this to be jocular. I am not saying this to be cute. I'm saying this because I mean it. I have never seen a time in the city of Oakland's history where we have had public officials who didn't seem to understand what it is they were really doing, and therefore didn't understand how to come up with solutions to problems. So you get moms for housing, which is a one-off problem, which isn't going to solve the homeless problem. And so because this hyper media environment focuses on moms for housing, and you have people who say, okay, we'll do something. And then you have elected officials standing there focusing on the problem of a handful of people, not changing the market that created this high cost system of housing that has produced these moms for housing situations. Okay. And so what happens? You get their problem solved, but you got somebody else in Oakland, still homeless, still trying to take over a warehouse, still scrounging for food and a place to live, and that someone is multiplied by 4,000 or 5,000. So you're gonna tell me you actually solved the problem? No. Let me read your comments here. Tito says, I got my Vegas gear already. Good for you, man. Sean Scott says, Farrell, Oakland Bible Study says, yeah, I do agree with you, Zinni, on that. I do not want us to be called Vegas Nation. It's a terrible name. Pedro Gallardo says, pretty sure all of this Las Vegas stuff has to do with the schedule the Raiders made prior to the delays. John Marks says, hey to PJ. PJ says, hey to John Marks. Corey Ford, how you doing? Corey says, if Oakland cares so much about the Raiders, city of Oakland shouldn't put up the money to build them a new stadium. Don't blame Vegas for that. Corey, that's where you're wrong. I agree. I thought you were going to say something more detailed about that. Now, okay, but let me, given my background, let me explain to you how you should think about this. Okay. Oakland and Alameda County had a plan that included about $400 million of public money when all is said and done. Don't ever make yourself look stupid by saying Oakland didn't put up the money. Oakland did. Moreover, and I'm explaining this, there are 57 people here. I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to tell you, and I want you to absorb it chapter and verse. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law on October 11th of last year, Senate Bill 293, the Howard Terminal Infrastructure Redevelopment Zone. If the Oakland City Council, which was given the right last week to be the redevelopment agency, something you didn't know about, did you? Okay. Given the right to be the redevelopment agency for that project area, if it creates what is called an assessed value, a base year assessed value zone of $2 billion in size, and that zone is part of a bond issue that's 40 years long, let's say that base year assessed value increases in value each year by 4%. By year 40, it comes to $1 billion, a total accumulated that you can use for a bond issue. $1.4 billion. That's from the city that you say doesn't have any money. So stop saying that. Why do you keep thinking? I say it's a culture of incompetence, okay? Do you know who it was that told Dave Cavall that they could use redevelopment, tax increment financing for Howard Terminal. It's the guy you're looking at in a phone conversation I had with him on April 4th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in 2017. That's where it came from. So if those of you who are with these publications ran by these racists like Field of whatever they call them, want to blame me, you go right ahead. Okay? I'm the one who gave him the idea because redevelopment, if you know how to use the money, can be effectively used to provide affordable housing, which the A started saying they could do for a reason, okay? As well as build the ballpark at Howard Terminal. Could the Oakland Raiders have done the same thing? Yes, if the Raiders were nice politically to the mayor. The Raiders were not. The mayor Shaft is the unfortunate practitioner of personal politics. That is not the way to go. So my point is, and I hope you see this, there are wrongs on both sides of the coin. There's no one who's completely right, no one completely wrong. And I give you both sides of the coin. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. So Pedro says, really bummed that my Niner friends are wearing the silver and black jerseys. Have you seen those? No, I haven't. Raider P says, it will take me a while to say Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think that I ever will, but I always say Raiders unconflicted. They're the Las Vegas Raiders. I have no issue with that. Okay, that's okay, fine. I have to admit, a few years ago, yeah, but I've been paying attention to so much. I think it's just sort of like whatever. Besides, my training is in, by my nature, looking forward, not backward. Although I look backward to respect the past and then build on the future. You have to do that, I think. Others disagree. But in fact, Mark Davis is one of the people who disagreed. I remember when I met Mark, he said, it was at the spring NFL owners meeting of 2014 in Atlanta. And he said to me, I said to him, hey, so, I was going to tell him something about past. He goes, I don't want to hear about the past, only future. I don't want to know about it. Okay. So there you go. Anyway, Patrick and Blackman says the city are letting things fall apart for a reason. Is it gentrification? Well, it's because they don't know what to do. Look, they let Governor Brown get rid of redevelopment, which had a gigantic affordable housing set aside. We had $111 million in affordable housing money in 2011 alone before it was killed by the California Supreme Court. We had 109 million the year before that. I believe 90 million the year before that. The point is, we had around 300 million in 3 years. That's just for those 3 years. Okay. And who knows how much we would have had, could be calculated, if it were allowed to survive. But I can tell you this. What we had enjoyed was what I call an affordable housing industrial development complex that we don't have today. If redevelopment were left alone, Oakland would not have the homeless problem it has right now. All right. So John Collis says Amy Trask would have had saved Raiders from being, yeah. Carlos says, what about Ronnie Lott and Fortress? What about him? And Gavin says, wow. And John Mark says, right on, Zinni. Yeah. Bible study says, question for you, Z. How long do you think the Raiders are going to last in Vegas before they move again? I want to see them there for as long as the NFL is. I mean, look, if you're saying the Raiders are going to break a lease, let me put it this way, okay? The lease is for 30 years, but generally, of late, I think it's a fair question. I don't think it's one that should be ducked. So I'm not going to duck it. I think the question is, how will the NFL evolve such that the stadium becomes either more successful or less? And I think the obvious answer is that is in gambling. If the Raiders and the NFL are able to allow people to gamble, but they can gamble from anywhere, there would be less of an incentive to go to the games, especially with 5G coming along, and then 8K in your house. So if you can sit in your house and be immersed in the building, right? Why would you need to go to Las Vegas to be there? So I think for the next 20 years they're good. But we have to start looking at how technological change, and I think this is really the next question. What kind of technological changes will happen that will make the stadium obsolete, and when and why? Those are the questions. Because as you and I both know, technology, like this thing, all right, is really making, it's allowing our lives to be miniaturized in a place where I can sit here and be anywhere in the world. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a time without the internet, and what I'm doing with you, I could never have done when I was 6 years old, right? Um, and I remember when video games were, you had to use your imagination. The first video games, there were pictures, and or they would take, like for the NFL games I play in the early '80s, you go to arcade to play them, and they would have footage that came up based on a play you thought you were, like, a, let's say you call it a sweep, and you'd see the Green Bay sweep, right? And then if you gain 2 yards, you would see that person maybe gaining something like 2 yards. But the point is, you had to use your imagination. Today, that's gone. The animation in Madden is as good as a movie, you know? So now we've got MSG Sphere being developed not too far from the Raider facility. And that, how MSG Sphere is used and how our audiences respond to it, and this is my prediction, will dictate the future of the Raiders Stadium. Okay? Because that building is designed so you can be totally immersed in it. But if the experiment, I call it an experiment because it's only being done in Vegas and London, if that experiment really takes off, I would not be surprised to see an NFL stadium designed around that globe concept, with the field actually elevated in a sense, and you would be sort of immersed around it, and then people could have different seats, but they would actually be in other parts of the world, but in the stadium you would be immersed in this environment. And then you could see from the bottom half the players coming out and going here and there, um, to their locker rooms, and they come back. I mean, as I envision this, right? So that sphere going up there has really changed how I think about entertainment. And if I were Mark Bedane and the Raiders, I would pay more than close attention to what's going on over there and ask, how can I do that in my stadium, and how will my stadium be impacted by that? And I think that's the biggest question there is. But the immersing experiences, people want experiences. They want to be in sensory overload in some cases. Even with cars, the same thing with your car. The car that Sony is working on, Mercedes-Benz, it's a rolling entertainment room. So what if you are on the freeway and you're able to be immersed into the environment of Las Vegas Stadium, and yet say you're in Rochester, New York, right? So you're in Rochester, New York, you're in the back seat, and there's this screen that comes up below you, and it would be as if you were sitting in an end zone chair watching the game there. That's not impossible anymore. But all of that dictates what the stadium is. The stadium is a gigantic studio. Some people believe that, like the Raiders seating, you would say, well, how come it's not 100,000? Well, there are people who believe that you don't need 100,000 people to be at a Super Bowl. Some people believe it's going to be reduced down to 40,000 or 50,000, all paying high dollar, right? In the future. So it's interesting. And this whole idea of who people root for. Look what's going on in Oakland already. It's like the Raiders don't exist in Oakland in some cases. You don't have diehard Raider fans wearing their colors against the Niner fans at the Athletic bar in Oakland. It's what's happening is wild. And it's happening faster than we realize. And that's mainly because the Raiders were losing. The Raiders had Oakland in the palm of its hand when they had that 20,000 wait list last year and the year before that. And they didn't win with it. And they started all this mess about leaving and people became disinterested. The Raiders quite literally fragmented their fan base in that way. But the lure of Vegas as a tourist destination helped rebuild it. But even then, they don't quite know what it's going to look like until they get it. Because some of those people, a lot of those people who bought those season tickets work in the casino industry. It's going to be interesting. Okay. Pelon says, Pedro says, I'm sorry I came in late, but what's up with the draft on water? Wasn't that supposed to be in the stadium? No, that was never supposed to be in the stadium, actually. That was never said. That was one of those internet rumors that got spread around, and that never came about. Okay, and that never came about. And Pedro says, in 20 years, who will own the Las Vegas Stadium? The Las Vegas Stadium Authority will own it in 20 years. Excuse me, a little Mormon here. And Palon says, the Raiders will move again. That's what they do. Patrick and Blackman says, did the NFL take into consideration about giving up the number 6 market for this 40-something market? That's one heck of a drop. Well, I think the question is, Pedro, did the Raiders take that into consideration? And Mark Bedane and others believe that there is and I kind of subscribe to this, there is a kind of an asterisk about Las Vegas, because even though it's the 42nd media market, in terms of name recognition, it goes beyond the size of its media market, right? But the NFL itself was very concerned about giving up that media market in the Bay Area. And it still is. I mean, look, you had 2 teams there, whereas you have one. I'm sorry, the 49ers cannot replace on their own the power of another team, period, particularly the Raiders. I mean, you want to see a physical example of market power and sports power combined. It's those 8 Super Bowl trophies that were at Super Bowl City in San Francisco between the Niners and the Raiders, sitting right there, that no other region in the country can match. That was cool. But it's also an abject failure of the Bay Area's economic thinkers, or I wouldn't even call them thinkers, I would say professionals. It's their fault that they don't prize sports as economic development. Whereas in Atlanta, sports is prized as economic development. Nashville, sports is prized as economic development. New York, same thing. Chicago, same thing. Kansas City, same thing. Phoenix, Arizona, same thing. LA, same thing. But the Bay Area, okay. I mean, hey, look, we're the center of tech. Arguably, we are where the atomic bomb was created. We're a different egg, just the way we are. So, and Bible says, "Thanks for your thoughts, Zinni. I totally understand and get it." Thank you, PJ. I really appreciate that very much. Thank you. And Raider says, "I remember." Raider P says, "I remember payphones and beepers." Yeah. NFL owners looking at Vegas as a huge cash cow. Yes. Palon says California will have 2 ballot initiatives to legalize sports gambling this November. Yes. And add the Rams and the Levi Stadium to the mix if that happens when it comes to gambling. Oh, definitely. And the Coliseum, too. I think the Coliseum will realize a renaissance with this initiative coming up. Pedro says lots of bad Miami 49er fans, though. True. E-Rise Cali says he will never wear Las Vegas Raiders gear either Oakland or Raiders only. Raider P says, I would sport my Raiders gear always, even around the 49er fans, my family 49er fans, Laker fans. I am the only one who has Raider colors every day, and that's because people are jumping ship on the Raiders. John Akala says, you think it's possible the Raiders play in Oakland this year and still referred to as the Las Vegas Raiders? I think it's possible, but what I was told from my JPA friends, they don't exactly like that idea. If you're going to play in Oakland, you have to call yourself the Oakland Raiders. So, as is usual with the Raiders, they can't do anything. You know, it's got to make it complicated. So let's see here. Raider P says in Oakland, the sad part, I think, I fans in Oakland wearing 49er gear is because the 49ers are winning. Yes. And sadly, our Raiders have been losing. There are only a few that really stick by. That's true. And their teams, no matter if they roof. But here's the thing, Raider P. I think I agree with you, but I'm gonna add this. And videos about the new stadium coming up at the Coliseum, I think the response would be different. But the Raiders have committed the double sin of losing and moving, right? Losing and moving. So not only are they not winning, they don't care about Oakland. So it's like, hey, we don't care about them. That's what you're seeing. If the Raiders had devised a plan to be really pro Oakland until like the last second, right? I think the response would have been different. Okay. But they didn't do it that way. And that's why we have court, among other things. Raider P says their teams, no matter if they move. Maurice Harrow says play at the Rose Bowl for a year. Raider P says, yep, I agree with you. Losing and moving. Yeah, just losing and moving. And the real Noriega, how you doing, man? Noriega, he says, but do the Raiders even have to tell the JPA they will play in Oakland? Yeah, well, they do. It's a matter of professional. It's called professional courtesy, and it's called official notification. You don't leave somebody in limbo and then leave them guessing. Okay. And Carl says, does the JPA even want the Raiders there? Well, even then, that doesn't make any difference. You can't handle this in a way that's childish. And some of you, I'm not saying you're childish, but I'm saying you're presenting scenarios that imply the allowance of childish behavior. Childish behavior is, I'm not going to call you, I'm not going to do this. Professional behavior is, I filmed out this form, and I'm letting you know formally I'm not coming back to your place. That's it. But they haven't done that. Okay. And the JPA is not in the position to say, because it's not in the clause, hey, we can kick you out early. All right. Now, could the JPA establish a meeting and then emergency change the bylaws? Maybe. But why do that? Just most calling is that the media types out there it's like they're afraid to ask the Raiders. Ask them. I haven't gotten an answer from them. Anyway, Raider P says, hey, Zen, Zion had a good NBA game, 22 points, 18 minutes. E-Rise, Zion is the future. Raider P says, E-Rise Cal says, Raider P, Zion Williamson put on a show. That was awesome. Oh, I missed that. Doggone it. I got to go and start talking about basketball, man. Raider P says, well, he's a Lonely Suns fan. And Mauricio says, love all the info provide. Thank you, sir. That made my day. Thank you. E-Rise Cal says, wish they would have allowed him to close the game out. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. Hey, did you guys hear about Antonio Brown? Oh, my Lord. I had admittedly taken my eye off the ball of what he was doing. And I understand that Drew Rosenhaus has dumped him. And, and he's got this problem with this moving guy. And everything that I'm seeing now goes back to what I said when he was in the Raiders' house and Mayock was, sort of picking at him. I said Mayock shouldn't do that because the guy is, as my friend Eric Metz first put it, Eric Metz said, he's got CTE. I'm telling you, Zenny. Okay? I feel sorry for him. I really do. Raider P says, how about Eli finally retiring? Yeah, Eli finally retiring. Mauricio says, drug addiction, he needs help. I don't think it's drugs. I think he really has a CTE issue. I really do. Based on what I've read, what I've been told, what I've watched, I watched the Aaron Hernandez documentary. But I really feel sorry for him. Eli Manning retiring, sad. I need to do a separate video about that, and I will. Very unfortunate. A player who, if you think about it, won the Super Bowl not once but twice. He's got 2 rings. And against the Patriots. Twice. He's a Patriots killer. That will go on that should go somewhere on his Hall of Fame bust. And he will go to Canton. All right? But I think Eli Manning will be best known or best remembered as an even-keeled leader. He wasn't too high or too low. He just went out and he got the job done. And even when it was quite obvious that it was not his time anymore, he handled it with aplomb. I think there was a rhyme in there somewhere. Pretty sure. I will be sad for Eli. By the way, those of you going to the Super Bowl, I'm credentialed. So I'm trying to work that out because just whatever. Credential for the week, not the game. But if you're going to go to a Super Bowl party that has a rapper's name on it, okay, my advice to you is don't go looking for the rapper. Because more often than not, that person's not going to be there where you think they're going to be. It was Detroit 2006 Super Bowl. I went to P. Diddy's party thinking, hey, P. Diddy, right? Never saw P. Diddy. And then it was said he was upstairs in some room. They said, but you'll have to pay $600 to see him. The tickets are already $300. So why would I do that, right? And then someone says, well, he's not here anymore. I mean, I didn't get up there. I didn't try. For the first timer, a Super Bowl party is a lot of looking around at people, hobnobbing, and some people maybe have too many cocktails. My recommendation to go to a Super Bowl party is this. Get to know people. If someone doesn't say hi to you, say hi to them. Don't do this thing with the smartphone. Okay. Don't do this thing with a smartphone. Get your head out of the smartphone. Meet people. Enjoy them. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And if someone wants to break conversation, just say, oh, it was nice to meet you. If they walk off, they walk off. Fine. There's going to be a lot of that. Because there's going to be a lot of people, talking to you, looking around here and all that. That's normal. All right. My only thing is, Don't go to a rapper party expecting to meet the rapper, because 75% of the time you're going to be very disappointed. You spend all that money to go to that party. Oh, something else too. Don't go to make sure that whatever party you go to, it has food. Don't go to a party that has just drinks. Okay? If you pay all that money to go to a party, it should have food. Ask beforehand. If it doesn't say there's going to be food, don't go. Don't go. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Take it from me. The best Super Bowl parties in Miami or wherever the Super Bowl happens to be are the parties that have both food and, if you want to drink booze, booze. I'm not a booze drinker these days. Okay? Make sure they have great water. Make sure they have sparkling water. Make sure they have stylized water. Make sure they have water where, hey, if you want to have cool water, you have cool water with ice, okay? But make sure you have food. Like Lee Steinberg's Super Bowl party, always great food. Lee has never had a Super Bowl party that didn't have food. Well, actually, there was one that had not as much food. That was just that once. There's always been a great spread of food. Commissioner's party is the best food. I haven't been in the commissioner's party in a long time. Yeah. ESPN NFL party has food. The Playboy party has some food. Playboy party was fun when I went. That was also in Miami. Also, some of the most fun spots in Miami are just along South Beach. Just hang out and watch people. But don't feel like you have to get into everywhere. If there's a line, maybe you shouldn't stand in it. You know, just saying. I can't believe I'm saying this. I really do sound like a veteran. Because I remember like yesterday when it was like, oh, I got to go here. I got to go. Da, 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 da. Age. Oh, well. All right, folks. It's 12:23. I'm going to sign off. Slowly recovering from my sickness. I hopefully will be back to normal tomorrow. I'll see everybody later. If you have any questions, email me. Thanks. Okay. Good night. Oh, do the Astros have to apologize? Oh, I'm sorry. Raider Peace says, Zin, I know this is a baseball question, but do you think Bonds will ever get into the Hall of Fame like Jeter and Walker? I hope he does. I think a lot of Barry's problems were because he was dealing with white male media guys who didn't like an arrogant black guy. Okay? If you want to say what the problem really was, it was that. He didn't curry favor with them. They wanted him to kowtow to them, and he didn't. Now, should that be that way? No. As far as I'm concerned, pro sports writers who never played the game should not be the only judges of the players of the game. I think it should be equal. I'm not saying that you automatically have to have played the game to understand it. No, because taking that ideology to its logical conclusion means that in order to understand a building, I would have to have been a steel girder in another building. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to mitigate is this gigantic problem of ego that's foisted upon athletes by some writers. And I think it has really negatively impacted Barry Bonds, whose contributions to the sport are unassailable. I remember the excitement during the World Series of when Bonds would come up to bat and he was hitting like 3 home runs a game. It was crazy. And the excitement and the parties and places like Momo's across the street from what was called Pac Bell Park then, and going to the it's closed now. It was called Gordon Biersch Brewery. Oh, so much fun in those days. Oh man. But you know what though? I do have a video called San Francisco, the Party Economy on YouTube. So if you want to get an idea what it was like then, thanks to YouTube and Zenny62, you can check it out, which I highly recommend that you do. All right, good night, everybody. Maurice, thanks. Oh, what are my thoughts on Grizz and the lawsuit? What do you want to know as far as the Grizz and the lawsuit? I don't. That's kind of open-ended question. The lawsuit's coming up in March. We'll see. And why did Grizz get sued or something? I'm missing something. Anyway, okay. I don't know. Raiders P says, and Bonds was never caught for steroids. No, he wasn't. And it's Mark Fernuwalda and I forgot the other gentleman's name, both who I know. Okay. I don't like them. But, I don't like the way they came off with Barry. It was kind of like, so you're saying, Zen, you call me arrogant? White dude? I'm saying, well, yeah, in this case, you guys were coming off like that, man. You all know it. All right. Oh, is there a chance? Oh, heck yes. But it's a long way to go. We're not going to see a trial until 2021. Of course, it is 2020. All right. See you tomorrow. Good night, everybody. See you. Thank you.